As soon as Joe's ready. I think Joe's ready.
Joe? Now it's Joe's fault. It was either my fault or Joe's fault. Do you notice?
All right. Well, you see, I've been gavelless here for the last 5 meetings, too. So this is my gavel now. We'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ballard.
Here.
Ms. Nazario.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Sturgill.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recognition of visitors, seeing none. First hearing of the public. Do we have anything from the public?
I want to make a motion. Why don't we just disperse with the masks?
You kind of put that in form of a motion. I appreciate that, Mark. You've just been.
last season or whatever. What time do the kids go to school in the morning?
7:25.
What time do they have to be at school?
The high school.
Different buildings, different times.
What?
Different buildings or different times.
This school, high school.
It's 7:20,
25.
yeah,
So
25, yeah.
early yet. Oh, well, okay.
Thank you. Is there anything else from the public, please? Hearing none, we need approval of minutes from our meeting on September the 14th.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Number 7, old business. Is there any old business? Seeing none, we need report and recommendations of our treasurer.
I just have items 8.01 and 8.02 for approval.
What are those?
Donations and approvals of the appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
That it?
That's it.
All right. Next, we have a report and recommendations of the CEO on personnel matters.
Thank you, Mr. President. And first, I'd like to give it an update, actually ask Ross to give an update on, I'd like to share the mic time on our, where we are with the arts programs.
Yeah, it's been a little while since we've talked about the arts, so I felt like we need to give an update here. So we've been working as an arts team. We started over the summer and then up through this point, and we'll be working all throughout the year to really address the arts expansion part of our plan. And what we've accomplished so far as a team is we've mapped out our process, we've done research, and right now we're getting ready to learn from other districts. So a couple highlights just from the research. We've found a whole lot of research that suggests just the importance of the arts for all students, but in particular, the National Dropout Prevention Council has a white paper in 2017 they published that we really use as an important reference point for us. And a couple things that came out of that really large-scale study. They looked at 22,000 students over a 12-year period, and they found that students with robust arts programming were 5 times more likely to graduate on time than those without, and that was just regardless of socioeconomic status. They also found that students who participated in a robust arts offering and also had lower socioeconomic status were more likely to graduate on time and had higher math and reading scores than students who had low arts exposure in higher socioeconomic school districts. So really from again, the organizations of Dropout Prevention Council, they're arguing one of the most important things that we can do to prevent students from dropping out is to have robust arts offerings. And they also found that age 9 is a really important hinge point, that students by age 9 that have had really robust arts offerings tend to have much better graduation outcomes. So that's just kind of a really important anchor point for us with some of the research that we've done. And so where we are now is we've put together a protocol to learn from other districts, and we're focusing on types of arts models that exist. And so we've learned that basically there are kind of 2 different types of models, and then there's a whole continuum in between. So there's more of a discipline-based model where kind of a traditional, you've got your art teacher, your music teacher, maybe a dance or visual art teacher. and the students go to see that teacher. And then there are more integrated models where the arts are, you have those types of teachers, but the arts are also really intentionally integrated into general instruction. And so we've got a series of questions for districts, but one of the big things that we're trying to learn right now is what type of model is going to best suit us. So how much do we need to, on the continuum, sway more towards discipline-based versus more towards an integrated approach? And so the districts and schools, in some cases that we're learning, we've identified to learn from. There are 2 in Akron City Schools, Firestone and Miller South High Schools. Carmel, Indiana is a district. We've reached out and we're going to schedule with them. Cleveland Metropolitan Schools, School of the Arts, Interlochen Academy in Michigan, Mason City Schools in Southwest Ohio, Shaker Heights, and Warrensville Heights. And so all those districts were identified either because some member of our team had some type of personal connection or experience, but when we looked at their approach to the arts and from a discipline-based or more of an integrated approach and the variety of offerings that they have, those are districts that we centered on that we wanted to learn from. So the next really 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be meeting with those districts, and then the immediate follow-up after that is we have drafts of surveys for our families and then for our students to really assess their interest and just to kind of a clear picture of what our needs are and the desires from our families and our students. So after we finish our interviews with the districts, then we're going to go back, take a look at what we learned, and then make any adjustments that we need to those surveys, and then we'll be ready to send those surveys out, and that should put us on a pretty good path to have the information that we need to make sense of to determine what our plan needs to look like going forward. So we anticipate starting our plan development probably end of November, beginning of December, by the time we get our survey information back, and then we hope to have our plan ready to go and for you guys to see by middle to end of January is our target for that.
So this could all be implemented next year?
The target is, that we would start implementation for next school year, correct. Yeah, so we'd have time in the spring then to look at whatever staffing adjustments we need to make, physical space adjustments. Many of our schools don't have dedicated music or art rooms, so there'll be some physical space, adjustments that we need to make, resources that we need to purchase, and then depending on the type of model, the curricular resources we need, some professional learning, as well that would need to be in place so that we're ready for the next
Do we have music
school year.
teachers in the elementaries?
We do, but they share buildings. They're not dedicated to buildings, and they don't, as a whole, have dedicated space for them. So they kind of rotate through classrooms to do music.
Question? So in the research we were looking at, did it specify the robust component, whether that was at elementary, middle school, high school, or continuous? Were there differentiations there?
Yeah, so all the way through. So the most effective models have really robust from preschool all the way up. And the districts that have robust by age 9, that seems to carry forward. So, there's a real importance for elementary, robust arts offerings in elementary school. Not just, on the high end for high school students to have a lot of options.
And so again, the next question would be: how did they aggregate in terms of identify kids who were in band and choir versus kids who weren't in those taking arts classes? Did they do that?
So they group music together, and this one as a whole. So choir, band really weren't teased out as separate items.
Because that would be a huge difference in terms of when you're looking at graduation, GPA. If you take those kids out and look at integrated arts minus those, that would change that. So I was just wondering how that.
Yeah.
'Cause that's a big cohort that really, because we know that GPA is on average larger, higher than other cohorts. So that's interesting.
Yep.
Good, great.
When music has like more than one school, is it because that we simply don't have enough room? And that keeps us from employing that type of lesson in one school?
It doesn't, the space is a limiting factor, but we have space to spread out a little bit, and we just, if we're going to do this, and this is the where we land, we would need to prioritize differently. But we do currently have more space in our elementary schools as a whole than we need.
So what are we going to do? We're not going to do the the music teacher won't have multiple schools, or she'll have less?
We don't have a solution to that yet. Those are one of the areas that we're looking to continue to investigate. But right now, we're looking at what our needs are, and then we're trying to figure out how best to meet those needs.
Well, how about let's go to speech and hearing pathology? Because I think that's very important. And, you know, we spread the speech teacher out, and she has numerous schools, and she does some very heavy lifting. So,
And that's pretty typical for certain aspects of support that we provide. If you're identified as someone who needs help in speech and hearing, those students are spread throughout the district. And we can't have one there's oftentimes only a few people in each building that have that need. So the only way to do that with any level of efficiency is to have one person or several people, but drive between buildings.
could we decide that we're going to put the special needs, something like speech and hearing therapy, more so from like pre-K through maybe 6th grade? And if we concentrate it there, we might get better results.
Typically, the speech and hearing students have a plan that is identified specifically for them that we follow. So it's not so much to saturate certain grade levels, it's to make sure we're providing all of the support we can to individual students.
With the IEP.
Yes.
Is there going to be a hearing booth on any of our buses? No, that's just a thought.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
medical, I think he's talking
Like
about the
in
medical.
In the medical booth, could there be a hearing booth put in
For
to
hearing
use?
screens.
Oh, for screening, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a thought.
Yeah. And again, we're still in the process of identifying needs and working with Mercy Health to figure out what the capacity of those buses can be.
I know the speech therapists, they go around and they do that screening with their own portable audiometer, and they do certain grade levels so that almost everybody gets a chance to have the hearing test, and then they go back with referrals. But it would be nice if something like that could be provided. You know.
And again, just to kind of go back a little bit to the arts, and again, we don't have answers yet. We just want to, again, update you on where we are in the process. But it's important because it's a question I get asked a lot. We're looking for our levy. We're looking to go to our taxpayers for a levy that will raise a little over $4 million. We know that in 2023, we're projecting a $13 million deficit, right? So how is it we're adding programs? And I hope everybody out there and we're listening to the benefits of a robust arts program. And that's why, because we need to focus our time, effort, energy, and programs on those that we know bring around the greatest bang for their buck. So it's the greatest impact over the greatest period of time, and this is one of those. So we have to make cuts regardless, but we have to make sure that we protect the things that we know have a positive impact on getting our kids from kindergarten to a diploma and ready for whatever comes next.
So with that in mind, is there any way that a board, in terms of expressing its values, can create policy that would protect? Because we know what happens when we drop a levy. The chopping block, arts is very high on the chopping block. So how do we make sure that those priorities don't change, or that art is valued in that? I mean, or is it always going to be, I guess, at the CEO, superintendent will make recommendations on the cuts. How do we avoid, and is there a way that boards can place in policy some kind of language that
would protect? I would say yes. First of all, can a board adopt a policy that prioritizes when cuts need to be made? But the process that we will follow is obviously the board will be at the table, we'll have a committee at the table, and we will figure out what priorities are. And once we identify priorities, we'll determine what we can afford and what we can't. So none of this will be punishment when we make cuts, but we'll make them with as much transparency as I think we've demonstrated throughout, with as much community, parent, board, and staff engagement as we have in the past. And we just need to make decisions based on these factors, though. What do we know has a positive impact on the life of a child?
somehow?
The most positive. I mean, they all do,
Yeah.
but to what degree?
But yeah, the history kind of spells out that this is what we cut.
And the history is based on the fact that arts aren't tested. So we have to look at them for what they are and understand that they have a standalone importance, even though they're not reported on the report card.
Thanks, Ross.
Thank you. Okay, I would like the board to consider for approval items 9.01 to 9.06, personnel matters.
Motion?
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
I would like the board to consider for approval items 10.01 to 10.14, operation matters.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
That's all I have for you tonight, Mr. President.
Wow.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I have to abstain. I thought this was the one.
Oh, I apologize.
No, it's simply, and that's fine, I'll just say my reason. The contract with the YWCA, I do contract work for the YWCA, so I just didn't want to vote on that.
I wasn't aware of that. Okay, let me pull these out. Could you do them again? Is that okay?
No, I mean,
Or you just
everything still
abstain
passes.
after the
it's
fact?
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, just.
Yours
abstain.
yours has been changed to
Okay.
an abstention, right?
Yep.
Okay, you got that recorded? All right, thank you. Make sure I'm walking through everything here.
Yeah, it's pretty barren after that.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
It was, I just,
there it is. Okay, number 13, is there, I'm sorry, we're down to new business now. Is there any new business we need to cover?
Actually, if I could jump back in, and I apologize after looking across the table, Mr. Williams, he posed some questions at the last board meeting.
Okay.
Three in particular. One, to look at things that we've considered in the past. One was the foyer. We were talking about putting a room in between the foyer and the admin building to create professional development space. That's been mapped out. Actually, we have a schematic for that, and it only creates, I think, 933 square feet. So in my opinion, for the cost, I'm not sure that's the best way to invest it. But that is the answer, I think, to the question. The other is a garage for our outdoor equipment at the high school. And in talking and learning more about it, we have over $200,000 worth of equipment that we just leave outside because we don't have a space to put that. So I asked Mary to put together something that makes sense for those pieces. And when you and I spoke earlier in the week, and I appreciate the suggestion, not only the maintenance equipment at the high school, but we're also going to get and invest a lot of money in some school buses to be clinics and food trucks. So I asked her to expand that to cover a wider area to make sure that we could put all of those indoors. And the third question was the third one?
you know, I can't remember that long.
I forgot my computer at home, and I got my, I know I emailed it, but I'll get to that question at the next one. I've been struggling all day. I have my computer at home, and my
No, that's
iPad
fine.
doesn't quite cut
And
it.
then back to the, there was two things that were on, that we talked about with the covering, or the bridge between the admin and auditorium. Initially, we had just talked about something because the atrium area was so small, and it
Just to
could.
put a roof on it, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then there was also a conversation around the same time of building that professional development piece, but they weren't to be the same thing. In fact, I think the professional development was, there was that atrium that would connect those, but then like across from that.
Okay, well, we have the schematic for, because it was what was researched before, was
Okay.
what I described. So I'll look into finding
Yeah.
out the answer to your questions then.
When that originally was suggested, okay, we actually had talk of putting enough room in there to put a concession stand in for like if you had something, if you had an event where people could come out and actually, you know, where we had tables and they could actually buy something and sit down and enjoy it, you know, this and that. And I guess basically we got ignored.
Okay, let me look into that too. Yeah, 933 square feet, just for a visual, is a little bit larger than a typical classroom. I think our classrooms in this building are between 750 and 800 square feet. So it'd be a classroom size, but not quite shaped in a square, it'd be more rectangular.
Yeah.
Remember
And
the
because what's
cost
happening
was?
is,
No,
Okay.
is on the regress coming out of the auditorium right now. And what's there, you couldn't empty 10% of the auditorium into
Agreed.
that space.
Agreed.
And so it just seemed like, wow, I mean, if it's and so there was that other area there that was unutilized that would allow, again, for egress. It would allow, if there was an event, you wanted a reception there, but it was more just to expand what was there. And of course, our naive thought in terms of cost is we're gonna basically put a roof over it. And, you know, it's already got 2 or 3 of the walls. So how to do that without, you know, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Understood?
But, yeah, I don't remember the third thing.
I know we talked about it individually, but I wanted to speak it out here, but my notes are with me.
And the equipment being left outdoors now is our maintenance equipment, like
Yes.
lawnmowers and things like that? Oh, there is no more room over at our warehouse.
Right now, we're putting stuff outside of the warehouse. I'm trying to picture inside the warehouse for all that stuff. I would say no, but that's my guess, and I'll get you a solid answer.
Okay. Very good. And I know it's not on
We
here.
cleaned up a lot of space out there.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but I'm still trying to picture.
And we have any progression going on with our medical vans or our food vans or any of that?
The buses came in. We have 2 buses that are in, and he currently has them. And his plan is to gut them by taking out all the seats, and then he'll draw schematics based on what he believes we said we wanted, and then he'll share those schematics with us, and then and obviously with the clinics, we'll look at them with Mercy, and with the food vans, we'll look at those with Aramark to make sure that we're all seeing and saying the same things.
Okay. So we don't have an ETA on completion at this point?
Well, the ETA on completion, the limiting factor last we spoke was 30 weeks for the generator. So, but he's going to try to come up with things to give it short power so we can plug it in somewhere. It will limit us because we can't just drive it anywhere. But right now, it's just getting stuff in. I think the generator and foam, for whatever reason, were the 2 limiting factors. But typically, during normal times, it's 21 days from the time they show up to the time they're driving off, where they were completed. So the capacity is there in terms of human resources, but not in terms of some of the other stuff we need to put it together.
Got it.
Just goofy times.
I've got one more question. How are we doing on the COVID thing? I mean, today was the first day I seen the numbers drop. You know, because I watch them every day, but, I mean, how are we doing school-wise?
Yeah, so today, we have 59 students that are in quarantine, and we had 18 at the high school today that had to be put in, so that is gonna put that number back up again. We've had 440 total students that have been quarantined at some point this school year so far. Of those, 143 have been in either classrooms or cafeteria. So 32.5% of our quarantines have been within school. The overwhelming majority still are outside of school or our sports teams for practice or the one game. So that's on the quarantine side for students. For our staff, we only have 1 staff member currently in quarantine. We've had 10 total who've been in quarantine throughout the entire year. 2 of them were from close contact at work. So the other 8 were outside of work. Then for isolation, so those that are positive, for students, we currently have 13 that are positive right now. We've had 132 so far throughout the course of the year.
How's did you mention our sports program? How's it?
So first, we've had 71 students have been put in quarantine because of sports. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
But I think that includes the entire middle school football team and some others.
Yeah.
But so we had some real large groups.
Yep. Yeah, we had two
Two
of our
football-
three.
yeah,
Yeah,
two of our-
two of our 3 middle school football teams. One of the volleyball teams, and then a few other football players, but not the entire team. Yeah, at the high school. And then on the staff side, for those that have been positive, we have 3 out right now who are positive, and we've had 30 so far this year. So that's where we are. We're Our percents are really about the same each week since we adjusted the cafeteria. The cafeterias have not been as big of a problem. We had a hiccup today. So again, we had to put 18 students in quarantine today. But other than that, our quarantine numbers have been pretty flat the last few weeks. So we're,
So
yeah.
basically, we're not there yet.
Well,
No.
No.
The short answer is no.
No.
And that's with masks
yeah,
and proper distancing.
Yep.
But again, to Ross's point, most of these are coming from home, except for the ones that we had in the cafeteria early on and our football teams,
Yep.
the middle school football teams and volleyball team.
Yep. We are partner, and the health department has said they're ready to do a mass clinic for us again. So we have a survey out now, and we're going to keep advertising it. We've had, this morning when I looked, we had 243 responses, I think, so far to it.
You
So
mean for vaccination or revaccination? or-
yeah, for vaccination clinic, right. So we had 52 as of this morning that said that they would like to have their children vaccinated. And that included, and we put this out, I think, 2 weeks ago now, that included for students 5 to 11, as an interest. And so what we're trying to target here is to do a clinic. It'd be 2 clinics, first and second dose clinics, that realistically we're looking at probably like around the first week of November, so that Pfizer should be submitting, and I haven't checked the news today yet, but any day now, their data to the FDA. And then if the approval process takes a similar amount of time as the prior submissions, it should be about,
Pfizer's been approved, hasn't it? It's Moderna you're talking about, right?
no, Pfizer.
For the younger age.
Yeah, for the 5,
Oh, for the younger
yeah,
age,
for, right,
okay.
children 5 to 11. Yep. So if the approval process takes a similar amount of time as Pfizer and Moderna's, Johnson & Johnson's prior applications, the FDA, it'd be 3 to 4 weeks. So we're trying to target about that first week of
Yeah.
November. And again, the follow-up would be a 3-week after second dose. So that's what we'll be looking at, possibly the first week of November, third week of November. And that would be for anybody 5 and older, would be eligible for those clinics.
So we would be fairly set when we go back after Christmas.
Well,
I mean, if things go.
If everybody gets
if
vaccinated.
everybody gets vaccinated, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, but we're trying to be as proactive as we can, but then also, the health department's just been awesome partners, for us, and they stopped doing mass clinics a long time ago, and said if we can, have enough interest, they're happy to come out and help us, partner again. But yeah, we just need enough interest to come out and do, make it worth their while as well. So that's where we are with that.
Anything further? Any more questions? I'll just add, since our last board meeting, we had a gathering here hosted by us with a gathering of the community. And I think that seems to be going well. I mean, I just think
Yeah.
our footprint was reaching out, police department, mayors, other community leaders and other organizations just coming together, seeing how we could work more cohesively as a community. And I think there may be a follow-up coming to that pretty soon.
Yep.
But just to let you know, I think Courtney was there. I don't know if the rest of Bill, you were there? Yeah, so I think that was really, really good. I think the community enjoyed that. I think they're looking forward to the follow-up, and I think some good relationships and conversations started out of that gathering. So
I'm actually very excited about the conversations that are coming from that, and we start out talking about the fact that there's an uptick in violence in our streets and in our schools, and there's just whether it's from being pent up with COVID for so long and now getting everybody back together again, but the conversation is shifting toward overall community health, with this being a symptom of other things. So we're trying to dig down to what the real issues are, and so we can not just address symptoms, but address issues.
And my big takeaway from that is getting everybody out of silos and us starting to work as one community. And I think that is a very important thing for any community to become a healthy community. And everybody's excited to be a part of that. So I'm excited on what's going to come out of that. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for all the hard work you've been doing to make that happen. It's a big deal.
Mhm.
Very big deal. Anything else, anything further from anyone else? All right, so no committee reports, next hearing of the public. Is there anything else from the public? Nothing. Okay, there's nothing else on your, come on, give me something to talk about. No, I'm messing with you, buddy. So our next board meeting will be on October 12th, 5 o'clock, right here in this room. And if there's nothing further, I will need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
Ms. Nazario.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Thank you all. We'll see you next meeting.